Guess what, listeners? I'm so excited to share some news about my book, Body Kindness. It has been selected by Amazon as the Kindle monthly deal. So if you like ebooks, I would love it if you checked out Body Kindness. It is going to be priced for $1.99 from May 16th through May 29th at Amazon.com and also with my publisher, Workman.com. I could not be more excited to bring Body Kindness to many more people, and I would greatly appreciate it if you told your friends, family members, anyone you know who has a Kindle, and spread the word far and wide. I would really appreciate that. Body Kindness is going to be the Kindle monthly deal, May 16th through 29th for $1.99. Hey guys, we are continuing on with our month of all things great sex. So here's your friendly reminder that if you're around little ones or in a public space or anywhere where you might want to not let people know what's going on, go ahead and grab those headphones now. You are in for a real treat. I have laughed so hard talking to my next guest, Elle Chase. You're going to get her bio and background, some great websites in the show notes to check out, and also an awesome book she wrote called Curvy Girl Sex. So I am just going to let the show speak for itself, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Because real health is about being good to yourself. It's time for Body Kindness, the place where all bodies fit and weight is just a number. Hi, I'm Rebecca Scritchfield, author of the book Body Kindness, registered dietitian nutritionist, and host of this podcast. My topic today is all about sex. And my special guest to discuss this with me is Elle Chase. She's a sex educator, activist, author, and speaker. Elle Chase is a powerful voice and thought leader in the sexual health community with a key influencer in the body acceptance movement. A member of the American College of Sexologists and the International Society for the Study of Women's Sexual Health, Chase and her inspirational words have been featured on NBC's Today Show, Glamour, The Daily Beast, Salon, and Cosmopolitan.com. And she is also a respected national speaker and presenter at universities and private organizations across the country, including UCLA, USC, Emerson College, and ASSECT. Also known by her now famous alter ego, Lady Cheeky, Chase is the creator of the award-winning feminist sensual images blog, LadyCheeky.com, which was named Cosmopolitan's and Huffington Post's #1 porn site for women, and one of Salon.com's the best of Tumblr porn, as well as the award-winning companion editorial site smutforsmarties.com. Chase also serves as the director of education at the Los Angeles Academy of Sex Education, where she curates classes that cover the widest range of sexuality topics, including sexual health, intimacy, body image, BDSM, and more, all taught by the nation's leading sex educators and serving the community at large. Most recently, Chase penned the popular book, Curvy Girl Sex, 101 Body Positive Positions to Empower Your Sex Life, available where all fine books are sold. She also edited the popular The NSFW Totally Naughty Coloring Book and the NSFW Totally Curvy Coloring Book, available at shevibe.com. Elle, oh my gosh, I've got to get the coloring book. I'm so excited.
Oh, the coloring
literally. This is going to be a great, great chat. I'm so excited. Thank you for coming on and talking with me today. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. So I just want to start. I mean, got the bio out there so we can add color. Just kind of let us know a little bit more about your background and the work that you're currently doing.
Well, let's see, my background. I became a sex educator about 7 years ago when I started the Lady Cheeky site. I was in a sexless marriage. I had left my husband. I started the Lady Cheeky erotic images blog to communicate with my lover at the time about things we wanted to do together. And it was just between us. And then people found it, and I guess they liked it. And I kept getting sexual health questions, and I started looking them up, and I sort of fell in love with the whole idea of being a sex educator, and that's how I started. But when I left my husband, I had to start dating again. And I had gained weight. I haven't been heavy my entire life. I started gaining weight in my 30s. I'm 48 now. And I didn't know what it would be like to go out and date with a larger body. But I was so eager and I was so starved for sexual attention that it became sort of secondary. Any sort of self-conscious feelings about my body or what people would say to me or any sort of rejection was secondary to me. I just wanted to get out there and see what it was like to actually have good sex. I'd never had good sex in my entire life. So what I found is that, I'm straight, I'm a heterosexual, cis woman. And I found that men that I was dating all different kinds of men who were interested in me for all different reasons. Some liked my body type. That was their thing. There were some fetishists, which wasn't my bag. It's some people's bag. It wasn't mine. And then there were people that didn't care what I looked like so much. It was sort of the whole package for them. And then it was people who also just didn't care what kind of body type. They didn't have a preference. It was really secondary to who the person was. And I found that that's how I date too. If you think about it, if you think of all the people you've dated in your entire life, do they all look the same? Generally, the answer is no, about 95% of the time. So that sort of helped me feel better about my body. And I was able to get into my sexuality and let my nerves and my self-consciousness about, my roles here, my cellulite here, my very saggy boobs there. I was able to let that go enough to enjoy sex. And I went, wow, everybody should be doing this. My God. I mean,
I'm going to cure people of their sexless life.
God, if that were only the case. But, I felt like I'm not the only one that has body image issues. And if I can at least communicate what I went through to other people, maybe they can find it within themselves to be able to put their self-consciousness aside for just a little bit and see what it's like to actually participate as a fully embodied sexual being as opposed to a body, Yeah.
I needed you when I was probably 12. Seriously, because everything you're saying is resonating so much. I so appreciate you being honest, talking about being in a sexless marriage and just talking about, it was a long time before I had really good sex, because I can relate to that. And I feel like, oh my God, you don't want to admit this because that's on you. Like, what's wrong with you? And now I at least I'm far enough in my body image journey and self-love journey to know, okay, that's just your critic voice talking, and that sex is not about performance or, you are not broken. It's a two-way street. There are so many factors that go into why everybody's having not good sex or not sex at all. And so you can say, yes, this was also part of my journey too, but as sort of a positive that anyone can work through that and become a lot happier. And I would say I'm happier. I have more self-compassion. It's a relief to know I'm not broken.
Yes.
And orgasms are really freaking wonderful.
Yeah, they certainly are. And even for people who say don't necessarily have orgasms, because there are women out there that don't have orgasms. Being able to free yourself to be intimate with that person and get sexual pleasure that might not be a climax, but that, all of the, the oxytocin and the vasopressin and the dopamine, all of that is released, that you get that same sort of hit of euphoria. So it's really a freeing feeling to be able to put your body image aside and realize again, like you just said, that you're not broken.
So no matter how poor somebody's body image is, they can take an initial step.
Yes.
Don't even think about the orgasm, but you can make progress.
Yes, definitely. I think thinking about orgasms and worrying about orgasms is the best way not to have an orgasm.
A self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly. Just don't worry about anything and just be there in the moment in that mindfulness way that's popular right now. Just be there in the moment and concentrate on what your partner's feeling and what you're feeling and what feels good and communicating. And I think that there's so much attention put on body love right now. And I think body love is sort of a lazy way to describe how we're getting to accept our bodies. Because really it's body acceptance, and you're lucky if you get to body love with everything that we are put through from the time that we start realizing that people have opinions about us at like 2 or 3 years old, and looking at the billboards and watching MTV or watching Lifetime with the housewives of whatever county, and seeing what the media and what a few people in the world want you to believe is the idea of desirability and beauty, and knowing that that's not real, that we're all beautiful to somebody, and we should find that within ourselves. So I hate saying should, but finding some way to accept, like, listen, I don't love my body. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't love my body. There are parts of it I love, but I accept my body. And when I'm with my partner, I give it up. I just say, this is what I look like. It's just what I look like. And if I don't just accept it and go with the flow, I am not going to have a good time. And, he's in his own little world, worrying about his own things. He does not caring, that I have, a big stomach that is referred to in plastic surgery terms as an apron. So, they're great that way. But he's not worried about that. He just wants the experience with me. And I think that is mostly what two people that get together or more really just want the experience and want the intimacy and want the sexuality to be really rich.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's so true. Everything you're saying. It's almost like saying, and I know exactly what you mean. It's like you're jumping in the field of daisies and just love yourself already.
Right. It's a lot of pressure.
Well, not just a lot of pressure, but if you really think about it, it's actually unfair, because as long as we're in this diet culture that is afraid, right? A fatphobic diet culture that says this is what you are not allowed to be, fear this, avoid this, those two things are going hand in hand. And now you're saying just love yourself despite all the bullshit around you. Right. Like, that is really freaking hard, if not impossible, especially if you've been traumatized by anything in life. It is an impossible ask. We should not be asking people to survive in the fatphobic diet culture. We should be working to dismantle it, while we, exactly as you say, if we can start with some type of hand on heart compassion. I'm your friend. I want to care about you. And that the body is at least, okay, this is my vehicle for which I engage with the world. Some type of attachment there. I think that is good enough. If that's where you're at, that is good enough. And now, we're going to take it the next step and the next step, and it will be great. Yeah. To make progress there. But you gotta have a wide range for where people should fall in this body positivity thing, or else now it's not accessible to people because they just can't be there yet,
Well, of course. I mean, you have to meet people where they are. And, I was teaching a class last night, and I was talking to people, I said, it doesn't, there are parts of my body that I do appreciate, but that didn't come overnight. I don't think any of us are saying that this is an easy road, but I think by setting ourselves up for, body love is setting ourselves up for failure. Body acceptance is a much more realistic and relatable goal, because you don't even have to accept all of your body all of the time. All I'm asking people to do is to get to a point where you can accept it during sex. And there are certainly days, like I was saying last night in my class, there are days where I really hate my body. Like, I'm not in a compassionate mood. I can't get there. I'm just not there. And I know that I'm not going to get there that day or maybe even the next day. And I have to accept that, right? But I have the experiences of my past where I've worked on myself, where I can say, in that moment, I can look back and I go, in that moment, I accepted my body. In that moment, I felt really sexy. I know I'm sexy. I just don't feel it today.
I love that. Yeah.
And allowing yourself to have those pleasurable moments that you can look back and go, I proved it to myself. Just one. You just need one. And it could be anything from as simple as a kiss, a graze, to full-blown, earth-shattering sex.
Yeah.
Just something you can grasp on.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you brought up comparing those differences between, like, overall, I know that, that I do appreciate my body, right? But, in this moment, I'm having a difficulty, or, I'm not feeling it, and that's okay too. It's a very, very important distinction, because we can't control our thoughts and feelings.
Exactly.
So the second you say, I want to feel this way in this time. Well, you can't, but it goes back to that acceptance. If you have permission to feel that negative emotion, a positive one will come back.
Absolutely.
Right. But it's like in that negative emotion space is when we likely avoid. And so I find that so interesting. I mean, I'm thinking this usually with like the food or the exercise hat, but sex would work here too. Right.
Yeah.
Like if you want to avoid the negative emotion, you're going to numb some other way, but you also might avoid, if it's tied to sex and sexuality, you might avoid the very thing that could actually induce positive emotions, like the touch, like, right?
100%. You're spot on this. And, in fact, I did for a while. I felt that I was neuter until I was 40, because I didn't understand what sex was like. Why are people so into sex? I don't understand. It's fine, but it's nothing that I, would write home about. And then I had good sex. And then I went, I get it. I understand. I'm supposed to be having fun.
So let me ask, like, did you have this little window where it's like, now that I know what this is, it's almost like, kind of like a high drive, and then it settled back down? Okay. Me
Some
too.
people might call it overcorrecting. Some people might call it being a slut for a little while, which is exactly what I did. I was sleeping with anyone I wanted to, doing anything I wanted to, and it was fantastic. And I think it is completely understandable and normal for us to do that. We're sexual beings, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I know. I remember. So I talk about the story in Body Kindness, but I basically take my husband to a sex and communication class, and he was so awesome and in everything. And I had mentioned it on another podcast, so I'm just going to cut to the chase with it. But the long story short version of it was, for whatever reason, for me, him, because it was in a sex toy shop. And so afterwards, when we went downstairs, like, so do you want to look at some stuff? Like, it was so nice to have his encouragement and permission, not like, you have to do this, but more kind of like, I'm open. It made it so much easier for me. And I'm so glad he did. And so, we're talking about like, you don't need to have that. You can advocate for yourself. But I had that almost like a little security blanket that just made it even that much easier. But then once we picked out our toys, I was like, I had, after like several days in a row, I had to be like, I feel like I'm cheating on you, and so it was like, I had to confess my vibrator use or whatever, because we were still having sex, but it was just like, I work from home, right? He's not going to be home till later. I get writer's block, and I'm like, well, you gotta, go so relaxed. And it was like I had yoga, meditation, and a good, rub-a-dub-dub.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and I think there's a big myth that the more people masturbate in a partnership, the less sex that they're having, which is just not true. There's no correlation. In fact, the more you stimulate yourself, the more of a drive you have usually. Yeah. So good for you.
Yay. Okay. So I want to go back to the intersection with respect to curvy bodies, people in large bodies. Like we can cut to the chase with respect to society and culture oppresses you by your body to say you don't fit the thin ideal. But especially in larger bodies, people who are in smaller bodies are taught to fear the larger body, and they're taught that it's okay to want to avoid being in a larger body, which increases the oppression even more.
Yeah, not just that it's okay, that it is preferable to not be in a larger body, and that larger bodies aren't beautiful on any level.
Right. So it's like, good luck trying to feel any sort of purpose to want to bring pleasure to that larger body. And that sucks.
Yeah.
At the very least. So that's kind of, and I think this content's good for anyone struggling with a body image issue. Yes. But I do want to shine a light on the idea that it is even harder for if you're in a larger body.
Yes.
My guess is across the board with respect to clothing you might wear, erotica type thing. Maybe I'm wrong on that. You could tell me, but there's lots of other things. But even that idea of like, I'm allowed to have a sexual desire and the culture is just BS. So walk me through kind of what would you say to the listeners as far as that goes?
As far as learning that the culture is at fault, or?
I would say no, because I feel like we say, we know that that's a problem, and we know that, and so this may make it difficult for you to want to bring pleasure to your body. Yes. But like, how can we help them take steps to kind of feel more interest and permission and, and just engagement in that joy? Like, we should not be depriving people of sexual experience.
I think there are a few ways to go about starting that process. Okay. One is to limit your consumption of fashion magazines. Mm-hmm. I really feel strongly about this. I was given 17 when I was 13. And that really formed my idea of what a beautiful person, quote unquote, looks like. Mm-hmm. Okay. Once I stopped getting fashion magazines in the mail at age 40, a lot of my life turned around because I wasn't bombarding myself willingly. It's when you're watching TV with a critical eye, noticing, not becoming asleep while we are being given and fed all of these images as we drive down the street or watch television. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, I think as larger women or larger men, we're very tuned in to other people's reactions as we walk down the street, as we eat an ice cream cone maybe, or eat dinner with a friend in a restaurant. We feel the eyes, whether they're there or not, of other people watching us eat. And we make up in our mind what they must be thinking, right? Because this is our judgment of ourselves as well. Mm-hmm. So what I tell my students and what I tell my clients is that become very aware of how judgmental you are of other people. So I, for instance, just even the way I was brought up with a very funny mother, but she was also very judgmental. We'd walk down the street and she'd say, "Ugh, why is she wearing that outfit?" Right? Mm-hmm. Well, that teaches your child that that's okay. Mm-hmm. And we may not have all had that mother, but we've had that person in our life, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. And so we will do it automatically because we're not feeling great about ourselves. But the moment we start noticing how often we are judging other people, we can see how often we are judging ourselves. Does that make sense?
Totally.
So when I am feeling badly about myself, when I am feeling poorly and I am driving and I'm like, oh, come on, or, in the car, or I'll see someone and say, what's the deal with the hair? say, oh, okay, so I'm not feeling great about myself today. All right, because there's nothing wrong with that person. And the kinder you are to other people, the kinder you will be to yourself. I know it sounds super woo-woo, and it sounds like, really, that's a little too easy, but it is not easy. It is not easy to be on the alert every day about how much you judge. You will be very surprised how often those little judgments come into your mind, and all of those little judgments about yourself. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing here? Or, making a mistake in a recipe, or, falling down I fall down all the time, falling down in the street.
I fell down the stairs the other day. I was like, my ass hurts so bad. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And so depending on where you are in your mood, you could really beat yourself up for that. And like you say, you're not broken. So noticing your judgments of other people and yourself is an act of self-compassion. Just noticing. Yep. And once you've noticed for a while, it becomes almost automatic that when you're saying something, it'll feel different in your body when you're saying something that's not aligned with the compassion that you want to feel.
Yeah. And so all these things will help you feel a better connection with yourself, to move you along to like wanting to maybe, explore sexuality and like bring your body some pleasure. Like let's think about the person who maybe doesn't have a partner, or like solo type stuff. Like what are things that we could do to get some of these hormones, oxytocin going, and, bring our body's pleasure? Okay.
Masturbating, definitely. And not just masturbating. Like if you're not used to it, or if you're used to just, using a vibrator, getting off and going to sleep, what I would suggest is really trying to explore your body. Like going to bed at night, say, and going to bed naked if you're not used to that, and actually touching your body and seeing where on your body it feels good to touch. How are you going to tell anybody where to touch you if you don't know what on your body feels good to touch, right? So when I did this, I found like the inside of my wrists were really sensitive to touch. So now my partner will touch the inside of my wrists at a specific moment, and I'll go nuts, but I never would have known that.
Yeah.
And just really getting an idea of like, this is my body. This is what it feels like to touch me. This feels good. What are the parts of my body that I actually kind of like? Or if you don't like anything about your body, what is it about your body that you can at least feel neutral about? My mother always said to me, she never told me anything good about my body, except that I had really good nail beds.
Wow.
So I can feel horrible about myself, and I can look down at my hands and go, well, God damn it, motherfucker, I've got great nail beds, But sometimes, you can't even get there. But masturbating a lot will definitely get those hormones going and get you more of a drive, I would say.
Yeah. It's okay to use lube,
Oh, God, yes. Please use lube. Please use lube for everything.
It does make it nicer, and again, it's that same thing. You got to lose the label of, well, lube is because you're not producing enough of it on your own because something's wrong with you,
Yeah, no, lube is, there are plenty of people who get very, very wet when they are excited and still use lube. Lube is a great conductor of electricity. So if you're using a vibrator, but it also doesn't dry out as fast as our natural secretions. And it can be reactivated with water usually, at least the water-based can. It just makes everything slip and slide better and healthier, and there's no tugging, and lube is just delicious.
Exactly. I love that. Delicious lube. And then, what would you say? So say someone doesn't have a vibrator. They don't know if they want to get one yet. Is any sort of like basic guidance on using your hands or anything at all that you could give? Yeah.
Go slowly. Use some lube. Start touching, your vulva, the outer lips and the inner lips, because the clitoris, 75% of women can only come from clitoral stimulation. So there are a lot of women that feel they might be broken because they can only come clitorally when that's not the case.
That's majority of us.
Yeah. So, explore what feels good. Don't rush yourself through anything. And keep going towards where the pleasure is. The first third of the vagina is usually the most sensitive. Again, the clitoris, clitoris is also an internal structure, and it hugs the area around the introitus, which is the entrance to the vagina. And so you're getting clitoral stimulation, you're getting the nerve stimulation inside your vagina if you're putting your fingers in there. It's exploring what feels good, because we're all such snowflakes. And even, I know it's obnoxious, but we're all snowflakes. Yeah. And even with the clitoris, there are bulbs that go, like I said, go around the opening to the vagina. And it really also depends on how close those bulbs are, how far away they are, how close they are to the skin, outside of the skin, how deep they are. We're all so different, which is why, some people enjoy anal sex, some people don't enjoy anal sex, and where our nerves are, and a whole lot of other things too. But that's one of them. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Totally. And so the thing with, my little, I guess, personal sales pitch for going and looking at vibrators. I mean, first of all, find a good store. It's their job. Yes. It's not gross. They will. I mean, I remember when we were doing, it was I could have been in the grocery store looking at brands of yogurt. I mean, they're this and that. They are so comfortable with all of it.
It's true. And, there are some stores that are chains, and then there are some stores that are usually much more sort of health conscious and or they're usually female owned, or are independently owned. She Vibe is a great store. Good Vibrations, the Pleasure Chest is my favorite. And you can actually, if you don't live in a city where these stores live, you can call the 800 number and you can ask them questions. There is my best friend has a guide called the Superhero Sex Shop. It's sitting here. But she went across the country going to all of these amazing sex shops and rating them basically and approving them, whether they were great for people to go in and just say, I don't know what to buy.
Oh my God, it's like Zagat's for sex toys.
Zagat's for sex toys. Exactly. And it's where I go if I'm out of state and I don't know where to go and I can't get a hold of her. I go right there and it's right, kitten.
Hey, I'm traveling to St. Louis. Can anyone recommend any good toy stores?
Redheadbedhead.com.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so someone's going to work for you.
Yeah, that's so cool. So, and then just the brief connection I wanted to make with that about vibrators as being a tool, right? So they basically vibrate, and there's all kinds of different things that you could do, but the reality of it is that vibration is the thing that is most likely to give a quick, not necessarily quick, but a consistent orgasm. It's like a tool, like a mandolin. A mandolin's going to get you a certain kind of cut for your carrots, and a vibrator is going to get you.
Never heard described that way, but it's a very good description. It's true. And there are different kinds of, there's vibration that's buzzy, there's vibration that's rumbly, and it's just about finding out what kind works for you. And, I always like to recommend the higher end toys because they last forever and they work really well. But there are toys out there that are much more affordable to start with, like gateway toys.
Yeah.
Like the Slimline G, which is a G-spot toy, which is also great for clitoral stimulation. And there's a company called the Screaming O, which just does all gateway toys that are somewhat disposable or whatever, but they're made with body-safe materials. So you can really find something that you can experiment with and go, oh, okay, I like this kind of feeling on my clit. Okay, great. Well, now I can throw this away because it's sort of semi-disposable, and now I can go and invest in something that's going to last me a while. So yeah, it's really, the world of sex toys is beautiful.
Wild and wonderful.
Yeah, it's like utopia. It's a utopia.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other kind of clarification or myth busting, and you certainly, if they went to any of the websites you recommended, they would see that. But the one I'm laughing going I know mine's purple, but I don't know the name. But it looks like a tongue basically. And not that it needs to, but it like fits in your hand. It can go in the bath or the shower. But for me, that was a huge, like, really? They look different? Because I just had that vision of those 80s movies, looks like a giant blow dryer, and almost like, why would I want that thing inside my vagina? And they're like, actually, yes, there are ones that can go in, but a lot of them are outside. And I mean, I was like 40 years old or whatever, almost 40, going, really?
There's so many different kinds. And, there's dual stimulation, which goes in and outside your vagina. And there's, just clitoral. And there's just so many different ones. And the fun part is just sort of finding out what you like the best and then switching it up sometimes too.
Yeah. And just real briefly to connect listeners to, I talked briefly about in the book when I talk about like, a masturbation challenge and things like that. And I did promise that I did every single one of my little spiral ups. But that there is, you mentioned about the hormones earlier, but like they evoke love. They help you relax. Like, how do you think, whether it's sex or masturbation, touching your body, generally, how do these things make you, I kind of want to say like have a better life, like happier or more engaging, like help people understand what are the benefits?
The benefits are sort of becoming more, in my opinion, this is really, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a therapist, so it's completely anecdotal. So in my opinion, I felt more of a whole person when I integrated my sexuality. And when I say my sexuality, I mean my need for intimate touch. And I think it is something, especially in a very virtual society with the internet and, the interwebs and all of that, texting is something that we lack. And also women in our society have been sort of conditioned not to welcome our sexuality as much as men do, I think, or men are. And so we're a little bit more disconnected, or we can be a little bit more disconnected. And even feeling our own bodies, getting our own sexual touch from our hands releases some of those hormones. And it is something that is intrinsically part of who we are as human beings. So to deny ourselves that is to deny ourselves part of being human. So I sort of describe it this way is if sex is food, we need food to eat, right? So we need food to live. So if sex is food, then sensuality is its flavor. So you can sort of get into sex through the back door in a way, no pun intended, through your feelings of sensuality. What makes you feel sexy? What makes you more in tune with your sense of touch, with your visual sense of what turns you on? And that's why I have my erotic images site, I'm very visual. That makes me feel sexy. And what gets you in the mood, what gets you feeling in your body, I think that is an extremely important part of just being a human being out in the world.
Yeah. I agree. But if you would have asked me that in high school, I would have said masturbation is gross and perverted, right? Yeah. If you would, and if you would have asked me, maybe even in college, I might have said that, and who knows? Even in dating, it was more about performance, but this was all times in my life where I had low self-esteem, where I was hyper focused on, now you're older, and you've been reading, like you said, forever in the magazines, better, 20 ways to make them scream. And oh my God, you can't make them scream. Oh shit. Right. You better fake your orgasm because otherwise you suck. And it really has just become this issue of, wait a minute, all that was messed up, just how food and body image issues are messed up. The whole thing was never my fault. It was a cultural thing that took its time to get addressed. And I'm just grateful it happened. And I think that for listeners, who cares what your next step is, but let this be the opportunity, take it and just learn and grow from there, I think.
Yeah. So, just think about it. We weren't born hating our bodies. Something happened, something happened to us to hate our bodies. So it's getting back to that natural state. What would we be like if we were never told what was beautiful and we could decide for ourselves what we thought was beautiful? maybe
Amen.
we'd feel completely different about ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I really want to talk about your book, about your Curvy Girl sex book. And so, we got lots of great stuff on self-pleasure, but we also going to be getting in the bedroom and, having partner sex and whatnot. So tell me about why you wrote it and describe it a little bit for the listeners.
Okay. Well, I wrote it basically because, I'm having sex and I'm a larger woman. I have rolls and cellulite and I also have mobility issues. I have a bad back. I have bad knees. So I found that when I was having sex with my partner, he's great. I mean, he'll like twist me into positions and all of that, but I'd like to participate too. So I'm using pillows and finding different ways so that my back didn't hurt and different ways so that my stomach wasn't getting in the way. So I didn't feel like I was smothering him when he was, giving me oral sex, something like that. And I thought I can't be the only one. So I wrote this book for all of those people that feel like they need, special accommodations for their body so that they realize also, again, like they're not broken. It's just everybody has something, right?
Yep.
So the book is 101 positions. I swear to you, I've tried them all.
That's also interesting book research. I want your research job.
Yeah, no kidding. Wonder what the write-ups will be for this tax season. But at any rate, it's a lot of that. There's some pleasure anatomy, so you get to learn about one's pleasure anatomy. And there's also a lot of what we've discussed on this show, talking about how we feel about our bodies and how to get into that sort of feeling of feeling sexy and how we think about ourselves and how curvy women were viewed throughout history. And so it's not just a position book, and it's also not just a position book for curvy women. It is for anyone who has a body image issue. Mm-hmm. The positions can be done by anyone, mm-hmm. but I definitely do talk about each position as it relates to someone who has extra skin or who is just, built with bigger bones, mm-hmm. or just happens to be might have a flat stomach, but is very, very curvy. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter. It could be anyone from 400 pounds to, 120 pounds with triple F breasts,
right.
and a booty, it's all different kinds of curvy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I just think that's so awesome because it's several. I think that if there's a universal theme in our conversation today, it's this idea of one of the major barriers is a simple lack of knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. And acceptance, that it's normal, that you're normal, that, mm-hmm. that your body is great the way it is and it works,
mm-hmm.
Yep. Your body just works,
yep.
and is meant to do these things. And here are some ways to do it. They'll make it easier for you.
Yeah.
And see it in print is almost, I don't know, for me is permission.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it's a good reference book, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, a coffee table book. I mean, first of all, the funny conversations, but then, I mean, it could be that little, permission thing that helps and inspires somebody else, So it's helpful when you realize that you are the friend, right? Mm-hmm. That can help another friend. It's like, we're all in this together type of thing. So I think that's so great and so necessary. I mean, we just have such a gap in, what we have access to that is, compassionate and accepting and helpful. And so I'm so, so grateful you wrote it. And, when we're talking today, I was thinking about, one of the things that I would do with clients who say maybe they have a food fear, like they mm-hmm. avoided bagels forever and then, but they really like bagels, right? And so what you do is basically food exposure. So you actually eat the bagels consistently and then becomes NBD. So I'm wondering if that would be the same for for you, for someone who it's been so long, like, is it just, you just got to do it because the more comfortable
you do it, you become more comfortable with it. You're 100% right when it comes to food, because I've done that too, that exposure. And you're 100% right when it comes to your body and sex. I couldn't always have this conversation. I couldn't say the word masturbation. I couldn't say the word clit or pussy or anything like that.
See, I'm giggling at pussy.
Okay, I know. But the more you say it, the less it becomes verboten, and it becomes more natural, to the point where I even got a clit tattoo on my ankle. You know what I mean? Like, go ahead, ask me about my tattoo. It's not a flower. So yeah, I think it's a lot of that, and just sort of accepting that, I'm a sexual being. So what? It's just sex.
Yep. And it is natural and normal. And speaking of that, the normal word, that you figure out what your normal is.
Yeah.
So it's not another rule to follow, but
exactly.
I assume for the vast majority of people who are working on being kind to their bodies and living in our culture, no matter what you look like, you've probably been told that, masturbation is dirty and sex is for performance. And wherever you're at, you don't have to kind of see this is the destiny for where I want to go, but be open to taking some steps to just look at body kindness as not just, being nice to yourself in your head, but like you said, touching your body and then doing some masturbation and then, and seeing where it goes.
Yeah. And, sometimes too, being kind to yourself and speaking up for yourself is about saying no to touch and no to certain touch, because like you said, performative sex is something that we've been sort of told is what sex is about. And a lot of us like faking an orgasm or whatever. And, I don't believe that people should say you should not fake an orgasm. I think you should do what you want to do in the moment that feels comfortable for you. Sometimes it's a one night stand and you don't want to say to the guy, you just stop. Sometimes just go, I just want to get you out of my house. Yeah. So,
Bye-bye.
That's totally fine. Yeah. So there's no normal. Like you were saying, what's normal for you, or you could just say there's no normal as long as I'm not hurting anybody and they're not hurting me. I think we're good.
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
that. Well, I realize we are out of time, but I have so valued our conversation and it's been wonderful. I can't wait
fun.
to do some experimenting with your book and definitely going to get my Zagat guide for sex shops as well.
Zagat guide for sex shops.
I will include all those links in the show notes, but where can people connect with you and kind of become a fan? Because I'm sure you've earned some new ones today.
Well, thank you. ElleChase.com, ELLE Chase.com. You can get to all of my sites through that one site, and the Elle Chase on Twitter and on Instagram and on Facebook. So it's all pretty easy.
Yay! Good.
Hey.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Appreciate you asking. Thanks.
Become a Body Kindness Insider. Visit bodykindnessbook.com and click on Get Started.